Hello, BookTube. I'm in another room of Hyde Cottage for an impromptu shelf tour. Not because it's time. I don't think it will ever be time. But because I was afraid I would lose my touch, what little touch I have. It will never be time because the shelf tour that I did in my little book room resulted in chaos. Absolute chaos. Piles of books on the floor, piles of books being rearranged. In the wake of every shelf tour, I was saying, okay, this book doesn't belong here, or I don't need this book at all. And then just yesterday, I engaged in a bit of reconstruction of part of the little book room, rearrangement of part of the little book room, and that led to even more. In other words, the library tour of the little book room is already invalid. And it's still the same year. It's only a month later. And I don't know how to make sense of that. If I just go through with this, then it's certainly not a visual record for me. Because every shelf that I look at, I am going to change. It's the Schrodinger's cat of bookshelf tours. But I thought I would do a shelf here in this room just to keep my hand in. And because some of you seem to like this. So let's see what we have here. Oh, my. Okay, well, we start off strong. This is Janet Wertman's book, The Boy King. And there's little Edward VI on the cover, who's the son of Jane Seymour and Henry VIII. Jane Seymour gave Henry VIII what he longed for more than anything, at least so he said, a legitimate male heir. And he didn't live to see the boy grow up, and the boy didn't live to grow up, but he was, for a while, King of England. And he had a regency council, of course. He was too young to rule on his own, and prominent on that regency council were members of the Seymour family. Jane Seymour was not, a singleton. She had brothers and an infant's father and uncles and whatnot, and the Seymour family suddenly rose with her to the pinnacle of English society. And Janet Wertman decided to do a trilogy of historical novels about the Seymour family. This is the third one, as you can see. This is book 3. They're terrific. They really are. This, I believe, is book 2. Yeah, this is book 2, The Path to Somerset. And there is one of the aforementioned uncles. that is. I don't know where you fall on the Seymour brothers. You will either look at that face and say, that's the Seymour brother you should trust, or you'll look at that face and say, that's the Seymour brother you should never turn your back on. but for some reason, I don't see Volume 1. That's a little unnerving. You'd want to get the whole trilogy, but I don't see Volume 1 here. Why would that be? Ordinarily my explanation would be that Janet Wertman came to hate me in the course of getting to know me. But that would mean that I would have Volume 1 and I wouldn't have Volume 3. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe it's that I got Volume 1 under different auspices than simply having a sexy BookTube channel, or even being, an editor at Open Letters Review. It could be that I got Volume 1 back when I was the U.S. and worldwide indie editor for the Historical Novel Review. That could be. I remember, whatever capacity I had at the time, I remember that the quality of Volume 1 jumped out at me. So, I strongly recommend the trilogy. Those of you, especially those of you who are itching for more quality Tudor-era fiction, you're going to get it here, definitely. Oh, wow. Okay, then we have, this is a reprint from, what was the year? Did you say? Are you going to tell me? No, you're not going to tell me voluntarily. This is a vintage reprint. How wonderful. I remember getting this in the mail. Yeah, November 2018 is when this came out. Someone reprinted Fletcher Neville's Knight of Camp David. A lovely trade paperback here. That is just delightful. That is an homage to the original cover, the original movie poster. This is a story of an idealistic White House employee who looks up to the president, works in the White House and looks up to the president, but increasingly the president draws him into his private confidences, late at night, alone, and reveals himself to be a raving lunatic, racist, someone with deeply autocratic tendencies, someone who should not have office, no matter how much he acts the part in front of cameras. And the publishing house here, Vintage, decided to reprint this in 2018, and I don't believe I need to draw any dots for you there, so I won't. Okay, then we have another beautiful reprint. This is a 50th anniversary reprint of Charles Portis' novel True Grit, with the deckled edges and the French flaps. Very, very nice. When did this come out? The 50th anniversary edition of a truly great American novel. This also came out in 2018. And all of you will know the story of this, right? Because it's been adapted for the screen twice. And in a rare instance in which both adaptations are really good. One starring Beau Bridges and one starring John Wayne. And it's the thing that you miss when you watch those movies. You won't miss much because they're terrific. But the thing that you miss if you only watch those movies is that the book is terrific. The book is really, really good. Okay, then we have Michael Innes. This is Michael Innes' anthology. Sort of an omnibus edition here of 3 books by him: Hamlet Revenge, Death at the President's Lodging, and The Daffodil Affair. In one of these old green and white spine Penguin omnibus editions. But then I also have the same thing, a classic crime edition in trade paperback of just Hamlet Revenge, which is a stage-oriented murder mystery of a kind that every Golden Age murder mystery writer wrote one, and they're often really good. They're often really full of great insights into the whatever play is being involved, whatever play is at the center, where the typical thing is, in this kind of a story, is that there'll be a dead body on stage as part of the action of the play, and it will turn out to be a real dead body. That's great to have 2 of those, but obviously I don't need the individual volume of Hamlet Revenge if I've got it in an anthology. All right, this is Mike Bartlett's play, King Charles III. This is going to seem to you to be, incredibly on the nose, but when this came out, it was not yet true. When this came out, it looked honestly like it would never become true. And this was a hit in England on stage. This was an absolute hit, I think, with Timothy Pigott Smith as then Prince Charles, who becomes king in the play and decides to, among other things, exercise royal authority in a way that none of his immediate predecessors had ever thought to do, but that is not technically illegal. And the whole thing is written in verse. It's written in a kind of effective blank verse that, believe it or not, is actually effective when well spoken, too. Just a weird production all around. That Mike Bartlett thought to write it, that it works on the page, and that it worked on the stage. Just, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Somebody sent me a closed theater file of a production of King Charles III. I didn't go to London's West End to see it. I got a file. So someone sent me the whole thing, and I've watched it many times. I think it's really, really good. Really moving. And in odd ways. You wouldn't think it, but it just goes to show there is hardly a royal house that drama can't be made out of. If you can make you can make drama out of King George III, then you can make drama out of anything. Okay, then we have another murder mystery. This is Death on Nantucket by Francine Mayhews. This is a classic murder mystery set on the island of Nantucket off the coast of Massachusetts. A lot of murder mysteries on this shelf. Don't know why. What is this? This is the lovely trade paperback edition of Early Work, the debut work of fiction from Andrew Martin, the young, promising Andrew Martin. Picture of Andrew Martin. That's what he used to look like in his salad days. Contemporary nihilistic fiction, just young people smoking on back porches. That's well done, eloquent, but once you know that, you know the book. Then we have Peter Shaffer's Amadeus with the movie poster there and the theater poster. This is heavily annotated by me. I really enjoy this play. Goodness gracious, we have some manga. See much of that in my collection. This is the only manga that I know aside from Death Note. This is Crying Freeman. This is in color, I believe. No, this is black and white. Gorgeous black and white stuff. Just beautiful, photorealistic black and white stuff all throughout. Look at that. You've got the make and model of those helicopters. And this is about Viz put this out probably in connection with the movie. There was a movie adaptation of Crying Freeman that was a really bad idea. But Crying Freeman itself was a long-running manga series. I don't think it's still running. That I really liked. I was turned on to it by a little lady who ran a local comic shop. Seemed like the last person in the world who would ever read this sort of stuff. And at the time, there was no other manga in the American book market. It's certainly not showing up in comic shops. And she used to joke with me, once we got to know each other, she used to joke with me and say, well, I'm behind this counter. Actually, she was French-Canadian, so she said behind this counter. But she used to say, I'm behind this counter all day long. So, of course, I started to read this stuff, and some of it's quite good. And she said, you should try this, so I did. And it's about a young man who is co-opted by a sinister gang, and he's tattooed from head to foot by them. I don't know if it will have a good picture of that. Yeah, there you go. He's tattooed from head to foot. And he's also trained rigorously on how to be the world's greatest assassin, almost to superhuman levels. But the training can't eradicate his artist soul completely. So when he kills someone, he cries. Can't help it. He just does. Hence the name. And I followed Crying Freeman for the whole of its American release. It had a big stack of issues that I have somewhere in a long box. Okay, then we have a historical novel. This is Alessandro Barbaro. This is a Europa edition of The Eyes of Venice. With the nice French flaps. This came out from Europa editions, what, almost 10 years ago? Let's take a look and see. All this stuff all folded in here like this. 2012, yeah, so 10 years ago. And it's really good. It doesn't need to be really good. I have a sweet tooth for any kind of thing written about Venice, because I used to live there. Lived there for a good deal of time. And this one is a big, richly textured historical novel about Venice, so that's great. Oh, then we have another great reprint. Wow. Same thing as with Night at Camp David. This is a great reprint from the folks at Modern Library of King Kong. Look at how beautiful that cover design is. The teeth are the title. That is just awesome. This is not actually a book, of course. This is a novelization of a screenplay. This is one of the first novelizations of screenplays, but it's no less effective for that as trash goes. This is a strong contender for Garbarnis, I think, now that I'm looking at it. Okay, then we have another beautiful, who is this? Vintage. Another beautiful edition. I think one of you sent me this. This is a beautiful paperback of The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, the novel that inspired the great movie. If you have not seen the black and white movie, The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, you should. It is amazingly good. Amazingly good. And I have, in my own personal movie lexicon, which apparently a lot of you are curious about now, since I made that video, that movie-related video, a lot of you have been sending me emails. I floated the idea in the comments section of that video that I should make a channel about movies and TV shows, and a lot of you have been emailing me saying you would definitely subscribe to that channel. I think I would. The problem is that I think the greater YouTube system would also subscribe to it. Those channels do better than BookTube. Everything does better than BookTube, and I don't want more subscribers anywhere. But anyway, this movie is in a very small pantheon of movies in my mind, of a collection that I've made in my mind of movies that have brilliant endings. I've made no secret of the fact on this channel that I think most contemporary fiction, most fiction in the last 100 years, really tends to stink at endings. But also, movies tend to stink at endings as well. There are tend to be, fireworks in the background, totally packed, totally predictable stuff that doesn't send you on cloud nine out of the theater. And there are a handful of movies that have endings like that, where care has been paid for the very last moments of the movie. And this is one of them. Oh my, if you have not seen, those of you who have seen the movie are enthusiastically nodding right now, but those of you who have not, be prepared. Oh wow, another movie adaptation. This is also from Vintage. This is they're a beautiful paperback of Double Indemnity. James Cain's Double Indemnity. It's a slim little paperback here. Fantastic. Terrific book, terrific movie. Terrific movie. Okay, then this, I just took this out and reread a chunk of it and then put it back on this shelf just recently. This is the old Schocken paperback of The Diaries of Franz Kafka. And the reason I took it off the shelf and went through it again is because there was just, I'm blanking right now on who did it, but there was just recently a big new edition of Kafka's Diaries. It was on all the front tables at the Strand, all of the YouTube emo boys who live in New York and try to act all Timothy Chalamet while their rent is being paid by their parents. They all had it. They all visit the Strand. They don't buy anything because they don't know how to read. All they know how to do is vape. But I was seeing this on the front tables at the Strand, sort of vicariously wishing that I could snap my fingers, be there, shop, and then snap my fingers and come back. I can't do that. So I won't be going to the Strand again, which is kind of weird. That is a kind of weird feeling considering how many, 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 many hours I have spent there. If I could do it, if I could snap my fingers, I would. And I could also, not to be too overly wistful here, I could request that new edition of Kafka's Diaries. But I didn't know what I would do about it. A reissue of something like Kafka's Diaries seems to be purely a red flag for long London Review of Books style think pieces, and it got a few of those. And I really enjoy reading those, but I'm no more fit to write them than a pig is to dance the tarantella. I'm not fit to write think pieces like that. So I didn't request the new edition, but I love this. I love this work. Kafka's Diaries they're amazing, and they're unsettling, deeply unsettling. So I thought just, rereading them would save me the itch of requesting, probably the publicists. Publicists are wonderful. They're the best people in the world. They're my friends. Probably they would have sent me a copy, and probably I would have written something about it. But then I'd have another copy of Kafka's Diaries when... anyway. Oh. Mm-hmm. Well, some of you won't remember this TV show. There was once, very briefly, a wonderful TV show called Max Steel. It's a kind of weird computer action Saturday morning cartoon type thing about a hunky dude, a muscular teenager, who gets injected with magic nanites of some kind or other that allow him to become superhuman for brief periods of time. And there were books. I think there were 2 other books in addition to these, but these were 2. That was his motto. Going turbo! He couldn't do that all the time, and he couldn't do it for prolonged lengths of time. I was quite a big fan of Max Steel. Even to the point of writing fan fiction. I wrote a Max Steel story, drawing the obvious conclusion from the show. Max Steel has a Hispanic sidekick, the nerdy intellectual, the Xander from Buffy. The Xander character in Max Steel was a nerdy, sort of definitely non-athletic Hispanic kid who was Max's own age. And you watch them as they have adventures. That kid is often called upon. Max is not actually Einstein, so he's often called upon to save the day. And I thought it was really neat. I mean, this is what? I don't even remember when this was. This was probably 15, 20 years ago that this was on TV. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, this sidekick is the only Hispanic character anywhere on Saturday morning cartoons. He's the only one. And he's a fully blown equal of the hero. The hero needs him, or he would not be able to do his heroics. Well, that was really neat. But the feeling of the show, the, as we put it, vibe of the show, led to only one possible conclusion as to what that assistant thought of Max Steel. So I wrote fan fiction exploring that. Is there anything wrong with that? Unfortunately, that was before NaNoWriMo, so there wasn't, or at least before I knew about NaNoWriMo, so I didn't bother to do it. Not that NaNoWriMo kind of frowns on fan fiction. What we got here? Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, well, we have Timothy Pigott-Smith, but 60 years ago, he's been on the stage for his whole career. And this is him very early on in Measure for Measure. This is just a BBC adaptation of Measure for Measure. Does this have pictures on the inside? It does. It has pictures of this production on the inside. Do any of you know that character? Can you guess who he plays in Measure for Measure? I don't know why I have this. I don't have any of the others in this series. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, then we have Don DeLillo's The Names. This is a novel that was just recently on Open Letters Review, the online literary journal where I am one of the editors. Tom LeClaire just recently wrote a reappraisal of DeLillo in parts and spent a long time in that piece highly praising The Names, saying that it was a truly significant Don DeLillo piece of work. I read it when it first came out and didn't like it any more than I tend to like much by this author. It just sort of sits there. But I saw this trade paperback at the Brattle years ago, and something drew me to give it another try. Can't imagine what. Maybe it was just my urge to be fair to Don DeLittle. That must be what it was. Oh, goodness. Oh, okay. No, I don't know why I kept this. This frustrated the daylights out of me, so I don't know why I kept this book. But I did, and I guess I will now. This is Peter Mendelsohn, and this is his book, The Delivery. Naked hardcover, no dust jacket. This is... this thing really frustrated me. If I have a lexicon in my head of the endings of movies that truly thrilled me, that lifted me out of my seat, then I also have a mental list for the endings of books that are exceptionally bad, even by the terrible standards of the 21st century. And this one, too, it's almost in the class by itself. And that's all the more frustrating because 90% of the book is terrific. About a delivery boy, about a delivery boy who's just making deliveries, going the rounds, delivering things, and we follow him on his bike. And we go back with him to his dispatch center with his despotic boss and his angelic dispatcher. And it's written with a lot of energy and a lot of concision. I really, really enjoy it. And then the narrative kind of changes when at halfway point he goes on a kind of an Odyssean venture through new territory. And then comes the ending. And I mean the literal ending. I mean the last 2 pages. And the last 2 pages completely betray not the book, but the reader. In a way that I obviously can't tell you, or I would be giving away the book. But it was unbelievable. It still bothers me even now. I'm not going to reread the thing because I know what's coming. Let's see here. Sorry for that background noise. I had no idea my surly houseboy was doing laundry so early. I applaud his industry. Oh, then we have a scuffed-up copy of The Doubtful Guest by Edward Gorey. This is about a creature who shows up at a manor and does not leave. He simply sticks around. The family often finds it with its nose pressed against the wall, but it doesn't go anywhere. There's one verse that goes, "Now and then it would vanish for hours from the scene, but alas, be discovered inside a tureen." And that's I had at the time that I got this sort of thing. I forget who made this, but who did make this? Harcourt Brace Ivanovic made this, and they made it 30 years ago. They did a whole set of these from Edward Gorey, 1985, 40 years ago. And at the time, I had a very pointed reason for keeping a copy of The Doubtful Guest. A long story, but I will tell you over wine and Kelso. Then we have an entry in the Medieval Towns series. This is a terrific series, just fantastic. Long since gone, probably on Project Gutenberg for all I know. Delightful things that show you towns as famous towns now as they were in the Middle Ages. And these things have original maps that fold out, and they also have they're filled with original artwork to really give you a glimpse of what these places were like before they became mega cities today. I have I think almost all of these scattered around Hyde Cottage. I know I have the one on Venice. This is the one on Rome, but there are all sorts of others. Oh my, it's a whole long list of them. What are you? Oh my god, you're kidding me. Okay. This is the Australian literary journal, The Lifted Brow. Amazing. This is number 6 of The Lifted Brow. With a CD and a whole bunch of original artwork and original stories. See, it's just The Lifted Brow, I think, is still a going concern in Australia. Australia's premier literary magazine. This was from, oh my. I don't know that I'll even be able to know. When were you? No, I don't think I see a date for this. But it was a long time ago. It's not. It doesn't give me a date on the. It doesn't give me a date on the cover. But as you can see from the cover, this has pieces by Douglas Copeland, Rick Moody, Christos Tsiolkas, Christine Schutt, and David Foster Wallace. But also, also on the table of contents is me. It's yours truly. Let's see, am I going to be able to find myself? Yeah, there we go. Steve Donoghue, managing editor of Open Letters Monthly. I have a short story in here through random tangled series of events. I had a story in the Lifted Brow on the same table of contents with David Foster Wallace. Don't think that's ever going to happen again. And this was one of my only stories under my own name ever to see print until there was a BookTube anthology just last year that did the same thing, where I had a story called The Cold Traps. I did not have a story in Jeremy Fee's Half Human Heroes, his anthology that's making the rounds on BookTube, because I was not invited. Didn't even know it was in the works. But David Wiley has a story in there, so you'll at least have something to read. Okay. Then we have these little golden guides. I love them. I have the one on birds is a must for any bird reader. But this is their book on the Everglades and the Florida Keys. And they're this size. They're a tiny little thing. They're full of original artwork. And they take you through the natural history and the distribution, the behavior of all of these different regions or animals. There's one on mammals. There's one on rocks and fossils. There's one on birds. The one on birds sold 1 billion copies. And this is the one on Everglades. I really should have all of those together. But then again, I should have all the medieval towns together as well. So this is just a mess. Then we have something that we saw on this channel. I hauled it on this channel. This is from Archie Comics. This is 80 years, 80 stories. Fat anthology of Archie through the ages that takes you from very innocent early days to more modern days where everyone is a zombie and everyone is ambisexual. Where are you going to show me? Do I have an example of the more modern days? Oh, there we go. And silence descended. Do you have something more modern to show you? A lot of these seem cartoony. But I know that there are more modern things in here. Just have to get to them, that's all. Maybe they're leading off. Yeah, there we go. In the more modern version of Archie, Archie is a super hottie. And it's all done like a Buffy-style comic book where Riverdale is infused with supernatural elements. Let's see here. Oh, okay. This is Argosy, which came up on this channel because I found an anthology of one particular story, Brett Waldo from Argosy. And this is an actual issue of Argosy Weekly. This contains a new Tarzan novel. I guess that figure on the cover is supposed to be Tarzan. It does not look to me like he is giving his celebrated Bolgani ape call. It does look like he's crying out, but in a very different circumstance. I'm not sure that I want that Tarzan story. But I really enjoyed it. I don't know why I have that one. Okay, then we have the 1980s reprints of the Hardy Boys. Not reprints, but the Hardy Boys series. I think it's still going on, and it was, of course, is always going on. Frank Dixon's name's on the cover. He isn't writing these things. This is a cottage industry type thing. And this is Hardy Boys 66, The Vanishing Thieves, which appealed to me for some reason. Can't quite put my finger on it, but they know karate, so that's enough. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Here's another copy. We saw this already. This was in the library tour in the little book room. Here's a double, an advanced reader copy of The Uncommon Reader by Alan Bennett. I didn't know that I got an advanced reader copy of this. Great. This is, I've praised it many, many times on this channel before. If you are a reader and you have not read this book, it won't take you any time to do, and you will love it. You will absolutely love it. And now that I think about it, it also is on that short list of books that have a very last ending, the very last thing in the book, that it's just completely winner. It's perfectly orchestrated, instead of just an afterthought. The ending in most fiction is an afterthought. But this is the story of what would happen if Queen Elizabeth II, the Queen of England, became an avid reader. Of course, she likes books. Of course, one does, but she hasn't caught the bug that we all have. And then in this story, Alan Bennett imagines what would happen if she did. What would happen if she did catch that bug? And it's utterly wonderful. Just utterly. It's funny. It's moving in a couple of parts, but it's also one of the best evocations of what it is to have that reading bug that I've ever read in fiction or nonfiction. And here it is. Here's a second copy sitting out here. Oh, very bad. Oh, bad. This is a Norton Critical Edition. I have a place for Norton Critical Editions in the little book room. This is a Norton Critical Edition of Frankenstein with the shattered ice cover there. Very classic edition. But does not belong out here. And, you all know what I know what a critical edition is, you get the text of the book, and then you get follow-up essays and contemporary reviews and historical sources, that sort of thing. That's not going back on the shelf, because that does not belong out here. That I can fix easily. The rest of these things, not so much. Okay, then we have a trade paperback of Helen McInnes's The Venetian Affair, which I found and grabbed right away because like I said, I have a penchant for books set in or around Venice, even though this is a kind of a espionage thriller that's not all that concerned with evoking Venice. It's mainly concerned with it just being an exotic location. I grabbed it anyway, and I reread it. It really reminded me how good this author is, how really, really good this author is. But I shouldn't have this. I mean, just because it has the word Venetian on the cover, I shouldn't have it. I have the ebooks of all of these, of everything that she wrote. And with these very attractive cover designs, these cover designs are beautiful. They're better than any of her vintage stuff. So maybe that should go on sideways on the shelf as well, because I don't need to have it. I don't need to have this book if I've got the e-copy. Okay. Then we have Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. This is a novel about a woman who keeps dying and being reborn, dying and being reborn, dying and being reborn. Eventually decides, well, if I know this is true, I should try to put it to some good use. It's a big book. It's not a lot like anything that Kate Atkinson had written before this. I thought it was ambitious and quite good for long, long stretches. But I don't have any other Kate Atkinson. I don't have any of the stuff that she did after this that sort of riffs on this motif. And I wouldn't have this one either, despite the fact that I thought that it was probably her most accomplished book. I wouldn't have it either, if not for the blurbs, because this has... Let's get to the wonderful page, shall we? This has something that I just love. It has a blurb by me, the Washington Post. Can you make that out? There we go. And directly across on the other page, it has a blurb by Sam Sachs, in the Wall Street Journal, and that is something that doesn't happen to too many friends. It just doesn't. It just doesn't happen to too many friends. So it was just too great not to have. Okay, then we have this is the Penguin trade paperback of The Sheriff of Nottingham by Richard Kluger. This is a terrific book, a reimagining of the legend of Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham that is not like anything you're expecting. It's not like anything that could be written today. You can't write an adaptation of The Sheriff of Nottingham today except in only one acceptable way. If you don't write it that way, your children will receive threats on their school bus on the way to school. You will be drummed out of your job. And of course, that way is that Maid Marian is the great shot with an arrow. Maid Marian is the one swinging from the trees. Maid Marian defeats, Little John in single combat. Maid Marian defeats Friar Tuck with a staff. And Robin Hood looks on, admiring, and says, "Yes, Queen, slay. You go, girl." If you write a Robin Hood adaptation in the 21st century that does not do that, then you'll never write again. That's for sure. But this was before those days. This was when insanity had not gripped the publishing industry, and this is dark and terrific. I have this trade paperback, but I just got the hardcover. This is much sturdier than this thing. I've been afraid to pick this up because it's already worn from all the times I've read it, or read chunks. Okay, I don't know what to do about that. This shelf is raising as many questions as every shelf in the little book room did. It's no wonder I was slowing down with the library tours. All right, let's finish up here with 2 New Yorker cartoon collections. I love those, but what are these doing out here when all my New Yorker cartoon collections are in the little book room? If I'm not going to have all these things together, then what's... Anyway, this is the ultimate cartoon book of book cartoons. So I guess this isn't just the New Yorker. I think it is, though. Well, maybe not. Maybe this has cartoons from other things. But this is just full of cartoons about books. And it's delightful. Absolutely. A lot of these things are absolutely delightful. I don't know if I could... I probably can't immediately find... there's one from just eons ago. It might not even be in here, but it is... It's sort of remained my favorite book cartoon. I don't know. Here, let me just flip through while I natter to you and see if it's in here, because that would be awesome. If it were, that would be awesome. I always love a chance to show it off. But I don't know how many book cartoons the New Yorker does anymore. I mean, why would they? Why would they make book cartoons anymore? Nobody reads anymore. No, these are all fairly modern, or seem it anyway. So this does not have my favorite book cartoon, which of course is from the New Yorker. It's this mobster and his mall looking around an empty house that they've obviously just bought, and there's wall after wall after wall of built-in shelving, and the caption is, "What kind of crazy people lived here?" Because they don't have any idea what you would do with wall after wall after wall of built-in book shelving. But it's not in here. But this has a lot of really good ones too. Oh no! And then the last, all right, we'll finish on a quintessential Steve note, because this is a companion to that. This is the ultimate cartoon book of critic cartoons. Is the homework fresh? Dan Shanahan, always reliable. And this is just an entire book full of people offering critical opinions. Quite a few of them are about books, but there are quite a few that are about restaurants and whatnot. Okay, all right. Well, there you go. A random fugitive bookshelf tour with problems. I mean, there's duplication on the Michael Inns. There's quite a bit of stuff on here that's falling apart. There's a Shakespeare thing that belongs. I'm making a whole bookcase of Shakespeare-related stuff, and it belongs there. The Archie thing is a graphic novel. Technically, it's not a work of prose. It belongs with graphic novels. The Lifted Brow obviously belongs in the little book room, not out here. And the Norton Critical Edition belongs with my other Norton Critical Edition. So, what a mess! The curse of the library tour has followed me even out here. Okay, well, I don't know where I'll go from here. We'll see. I'll think about it, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.